What's going on, everybody? So we're back with another episode of, we'll call it the Vet, the Bet, the Casual, but we got some exciting news here with my boy Paisan as usual. But, as this man gets, a little bit more love for the sport and sees the fighters and gets to know them a little bit, I guess he's had what you would call a shift of gears, if you will. And we're now taking off into the sunset about kind of, I guess recusing ourselves a little bit from so much of the betting talk and maybe getting this man a little bit more in what we call the passion side of the game. So Paisan, why don't you give us a little brief experience, take on that?
Yeah, so as my man Suki here touched on it, we love the personal betting aspect of it. It's something that's never gonna, change, but the love for the sport is growing. And, as we get into more contact with individual fighters and things like that, we're kind of pivoting to focus more on that, which is proving to be, a true love and passion for the sport and for combat sports in general. So it's really exciting stuff. Hope you guys enjoy it. We'll still be touching on the lines and everything like that. But, it's more focused on the fighters, all the hard work.
But exciting news. Guess what, guys? So it won't just be me guessing lines. We know that I pretty much brushed that game right under the floor, right? I don't need to be doing that no more. We've graduated. So where have we graduated to? My boy here, Pies, is going to be guessing the lines too. This man likes it a bit more than I do. It's going to be fun. We're both going to be throwing out some lines. It's going to be great. I don't think it's going to be as important, but you know what? It's going to be a great time when we kind of reveal the favorites, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. And, I couldn't see Siraj having all the fun there. So I decided, let's jump in. Let's make a game out of it. We can do a little back and forth. And yeah, so, before we jump into the card, we're just fresh off of UFC 258. That was a phenomenal card. Kamaru Usman continuing his dominance. A lot of good fights on that card. Great for the UFC. Anything you saw there that stood out to you?
I think that, despite the lack of true surprise or anything like that, I think the big thing is that you saw a version of Gilbert Burns that we hadn't seen in a while, right? Because frankly, the guy looked inhuman. He looked like he could beat anybody in the world. And frankly, that's why he's still getting credit right now as the second best welterweight, in the world, because frankly, he just happened to take on the absolute best and potentially, challenging for the pound for pound. And, who knows where he takes this, but I think that's one of the best things we can take away right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a great card. There was an insane upset in that Rodolfo Vieira fight. A couple great ones in there for sure.
Let's talk about personal side, but let's...
What's funny is that they even graded that as a loss for you. So
let's say it. Should we tell that story? Oh my God! Let's not single out. I'm sure there's other people in the world that saw this, but they did not expect him to win, so they just decided to cash it out like the man lost. That's the last little tidbit of the side of the world you'll hear from me.
Yep. So without further ado, we got Vegas, UFC Vegas 20 on deck. Another great card there. Some heavyweights headlining that one as well. So.
What a great day for Paisan to start picking some lines, big boys throwing. We're not just talking about the guys who just throw, but throw.
Yeah, and there's a few of those in this card. So I'm really excited for it. This weekend we got Curtis Blades and Derek Lewis coming up. And next weekend another card headlined by heavyweights. I'm pumped for this. So let's dive right into it, man. If you haven't already done so, hit that bell button, hit that subscribe, make sure that shit goes blue. Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff is below. Give us a follow. And yeah, let's jump right into it. Kicking us off, we got Dustin, Jacoby, and Maxim Grishin in a nice light heavyweight bout.
Do you remember these guys? I feel like they've been 100%. They've been blown
this is
up.
The first card.
Yeah,
this is the first fight on the card.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I felt like, these were two guys you definitely would remember, especially contender series wise. And then this man stepping in randomly to fight at heavyweight against Marcin Tybura. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, what the hell was that? I was like, none of these are heavyweights except Tybura. Oh man, so good. So yeah, we got Dustin, Jacoby on one side, elite, kickboxer, seems to be that's kind of his bread and butter there. It was hilarious watching, some of his highlights and post interview of his last fight. Man, didn't even remember the uppercut he landed. So,
didn't he look like he was in incredible shape? Because, I know you won't 100%. Really remember, the one that the guy that kind of tried his luck back in the day. But, this man grew and grew in glory. And supposedly that was just a random, tournament that he entered. That was a random kickboxing tournament he entered through glory. Ended up, getting a resurgence of a career at that level. That's what got him the contender series look. And, in that last fight, man, I was just really impressed with, how shredded he looked, because we had watched him on the Contender Series, you and I, and that's where like I was just kind of really convinced like this man is hungry and he feels ready. You can tell.
Yeah, and you know, you touched on it best. Like, I was shocked to see that he was in the UFC back in 2010. But you look there, and this isn't the same human. You know what I mean? It's really not. So, yeah, and then, you know, on the flip side, we got Maxim Grishin. You know, what a beast this guy is. You know, I rewatched that fight with Ankaelev, and, you know, those leg kicks, man, that was some technical work right there, man. He really wore him down, and I'm excited to see what he can do with this one against an elite kickboxer, you know?
Quick question. What's your thought on that finish there? Too early? Was that a good stoppage against Ankaelev?
It's tough. You know, I'm always going to side with safety, right? So I think it was a good stoppage, but, you know, other people might say differently. What did you think?
Well, I think that he had his guard up. I think that the moment the strike stopped, he seemed very aware of his situation. I think that was a bad timing thing. I think that, you know what, you have to give the referee his dues, because it's almost like he made the decision not aware of the time, which you actually have to consider as maybe a good decision. Because if he's letting the strikes go on for an extra 3 seconds because it's only 3 seconds, I don't know if you actually consider that unbiasedly good or bad judging. That's where I kind of hold myself accountable right now, because I'm personally telling myself, well, fuck, bro. He's just three seconds, man. This guy looked like he was there, man. I want to see a third round between these guys. So that's where I kind of felt a little bad.
And, you know, that's kind of where the passion and love of the game kind of makes you remove your bias, right? It's like these refs have a hard job, man. They can't let somebody go in there and get hurt, because the scrutiny that they're going to receive after is not worth it, as opposed to stopping the fight a few seconds earlier for everybody's safety, right?
Man, how much you wish that these judges had the exact same onus. Whew. You could only judge fights as well as these guys are reffing fights now.
It's so true, man. That's a tough job, man. Some of these end up being super tight. So, you know, anything else you want to touch on for Grishin here?
Of course, yeah. I mean, like, his 2 losses are back in 2011 and M1. You know, like that's like a big deal. We got Mazo on short notice. We just talked about that. He was supposed to fight Alexis Romanov, if you remember that guy. He's the one laying people out and submitting them against the mat. You know, and then Ankalev. You know what I mean? Knocked him out for an AFC title. And I just think, you know, entire PFL career was the light heavyweight division. So these are the little things that are telling me, like, as we're seeing him go on that last little string of fights, especially at the UFC level, I'm hoping that he gets to do some damage at this weight class. But again, we're talking about a guy like Jacoby. So, you know, depending on where your heart lies, right? You like the striker, you know, both guys love to strike. I think that the takedown defense, I think Grisham's ability to maybe push him up against the fence is going to play a part if you want to go that way. But again, Jacoby, man, those strikes are looking lethal. Absolutely crazy good shape against Ledette. Finished that fight with absolute ease. The chopping is just too real. You know, like, he's absolutely chopping the leg. So again, for Grishin, right, he likes using the leg kicks too. But whichever guy can really mix it up more and maybe get a takedown, get up against the fence, and see where that kind of part of the fight goes. It's like, where do you give the edge? If you like the wrestlers, I mean, Grishin's got that chance, but woo, Jacoby with those strikes, man. Ooh, that second one.
You know, those leg kicks for Grishin ain't gonna land against Jacoby.
That's what I mean.
You know, let's dive right into guess the lines here. I'm excited to try and guess this one too. I might be completely off, guys. So disclaimer there. I apologize in advance.
Quick question: who's checking the line? Are you or me?
Oh, I don't know. I have no idea. Okay. I'll pull it up right now.
Traditions. Stick to the guns.
So give me your guess first. Let's go.
Yeah,
I'll respond, and then let's see.
I'm gonna say. You know, I think the kickboxing is going to heavily favor Jacoby, especially in the line, right? So I mean, if you have any background of these two fighters, you just maybe give Grishin that edge, especially for the fact that he took on Tybura on short notice at heavyweight. Like, you kidding me? So I'm definitely gonna go Grishin, but I don't see it being close, you know, to that minus 200. So I'm gonna go minus 150. That's my guess.
Okay, I'm simply gonna play devil's advocate here. I do believe that Jacoby has worked on the aspect of his game that, you know.
You have the lines up already, cheater?
No, I don't. I haven't looked them up yet. So, but again, I see this as a pick 'em. It's super hard
exactly.
to call, so
I'm so used to doing your little game here, so I always, anytime I have like a little edge, I always go with that minus 150. But that's exactly the way I'm kind of hoping it goes. But again, you got to see.
And I'm literally doing this to just go opposite of you, so I'm gonna go Jacoby with minus 150. I think it's gonna be close. I'll go minus 130.
All right.
All right, let's check out those live lines. Jacoby Grishin. Wow. Pies on the board here. We got Jacoby at -170, actually.
There you go. Look at that. So, I mean, still close fight, and I think it's just exactly what I said, right? Whichever way you're leaning, if you're a striking guy, you're probably going to go Jacoby. But if you believe that there's a chance that the striker can take this to the ground, you're going to go Grishin, and you're going to go with the value.
Yeah. Like you said, great value there. So, yeah, that takes us right into our next bout here. We got a bantamweight bout between Ronnie Lawrence and Vince Cachero, man. Ronnie Lawrence, we've seen his name pop up a few times, man. This is an exciting prospect.
Prospect watch, number 6.
Yeah, I was going to say, we've touched on him before. If you haven't checked out that video, go check it out. But, we saw him dominate in his Dana White contender series. I watched some video on him after, and like Dana White calling him special and shit, like that goes a long way, man.
That's the thing, right? So when Dana's giving you a standing ovation when you don't knock a guy out or break their limbs, I mean, come on now.
He likes what he sees.
Joaquin Phoenix, you know?
Oh, man, great reference right there, So Vince on the flip side, Vince Cachero, he did lose his UFC debut to Jamal Emmers, who we're actually seeing this upcoming weekend. And, in rewatching that fight, it really looked like, the height and reach gave him a lot of trouble there, man. He wanted to get in close and wanted to, start dictating the pace, but he just couldn't, man. Jamal was just too long for him.
And he just constantly puts the pressure, right? I felt like the timing there on the takedowns, even when Cachero was trying to lean in there and leap for a shot, the timing on the takedowns was just too perfect. The big thing about that, though, is, I felt like Cachero, short notice fight, Valiev pulls out, replaces that debut, UFC event. The cool thing about him is that he fought for an interim, LFA title against our boy Casey Kenny, who's getting I think, main event prelim bout against Dominic Cruz. So, I mean, It goes to show you how good Casey Kenny is and how close Vince Cachero could have been to, getting in on a LFA interim title. So, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and so, I'm pumped for this one. The ground game did also seem to be a little bit of an issue for him there. Did you kind of agree with that? Do you see it kind of, improving?
100%. So the one thing I really loved, right? Hawaiian man. So this guy's going to stand there and bang. You want to bang with this guy? Like, this guy took almost 100 shots in 2 rounds and came out looking like a Calvin Klein model, bro. Who's going in there and taking almost 200 punches, coming out there looking that pretty, bro? Come on now. His face is bred for it. It's like someone just made him to be a model and a fighter. Like, here, go pick. And so
strong bone structure, bro.
Right? Bone structure. It's like Maxie Holloway just punching on the sides. Better take that, which comes on the fight with his headbands on. Same things, man. These Hawaiian boys are built different. And I think that's the one thing that you kind of have to keep in mind, right? Like, we're going to jump into your boy Ronnie Lawrence here, but we know what Ronnie's going to do, and that's going to be pace, 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 pace. So if you thought Jamal Emmers was pushing pace, Ronnie Lawrence is about to give you a whole new taste. So yeah. I think Cachero actually has like certain areas like footwork, man. If you can actually work that in and avoid, like, this guy is going to, telegraph those in a little bit of ways because he goes for power sometimes. Like, even in the early parts of that fight, in Ronnie Lawrence's Dana White Contender Series, you saw, some good defense, at least from a footwork perspective. I think Cachero might be able to do something along those lines. But the leaping punches, the leaving yourself open. Like, if you have trouble with Jamal Emmers' timing, you have to figure out how you're going to work with a guy like Ronnie Lawrence's timing. And he's very aggressive on the ground. He was going for submissions constantly. I'm sure you rewatched that one too.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. And like you said, as it was a decision, but it was a dominating performance. Encompassed all facets of his game, right? It wasn't just, I dominated this aspect of it, but he had a lot of tools in his belt, which were very impressive. So let's see if that can carry over next weekend. Let's jump back into Guess the Lines. You want to do a little rotation here? You want me to go first here, or how do you want to do this?
Sure. I mean, there's a few things that I really liked that came up in that fight that I just wanted to mention. I mean, David mentioned a great point. Like, when he was constantly fighting the hands on the ground, it was really cool to see because, like, this is how active the boy is on the ground. Like, he's pushing hands away and landing shots, pushing hands away, landing shots, pushing hands away. Like, the activity, it's so high. And it's because, like, you know what? Let me just save us even a bit of time. I'm going to let that lean right into my line because it goes very clearly into what I'm thinking here. Because I don't think Vegas is going to look at these previous fights and be like, oh yeah, guys, let's give these people a chance to win some money. I do believe that they're going to have to, be the devils that they are and kind of price it accordingly because I think if you see a line for Ronnie Lawrence, anything below -250, I think it gets pounded based on what you've seen And so in their minds, I think I'm going to go closer to one of the better favorites on the card. I'm going to have to put him at a minus 300 because, as I said, there's a few ways for Cachero to win this fight. But I mean, if you're going on tape and you're really studying these, like Lawrence is a tough puzzle to solve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And honestly, unfortunately, it does reduce the conflict we're going to have because I was leaning towards Ronnie around minus 250 myself. So, that kind of goes in line with your analysis. Let's give a little drum roll, check out the lines. Ronnie Lawrence is a minus 175.
Wow. So that's very interesting. So you know what, man? I think we just nailed it, right? I believe that Cachero has the chin. He has the cardio. He has the movement. Like, if you're able to avoid those takedowns, it's a different fight, right? If you look at the way Ronnie Lawrence took damage, there's a really cool thing in that fight too, right? Towards the end of that second round, you can see Ronnie Lawrence kind of get a really dominant, like triangle armbar, like that double move at the end there. But still, I think Jose actually jumps out of the way. It's Jose Johnson, right? I think I got that right on. Yeah. So he basically hops right out of that. But when they're getting up, it's like Ronnie Lawrence gives him a tap. Jose gives him back a tap. It was almost like one of those things where it's like, yeah, bro, you're pretty dominant, but like I can figure something out. In the next round, it's like there was very minimal, like obvious, like chance because of how dominant the fight was, but Jose was still able to keep it in there. So you know what, man? I kudos to the Devils for coming through again because maybe we're reading too much into what we saw, and like we said, Cachero's got that fulcrum. He's got that speed. The weight, he does fluctuate in divisions, so I think that's something to keep an eye on. But let's keep an eye on those weigh-ins because it's gonna be a fun fight, man.
Yeah, and honestly, I think part of the line adjustment there might be the fact that so many of these prospects that we see come in have such massive lines, and the vets are able to do a little bit of damage. So might be a little Vegas influence there to not put this at a minus 250, minus 300, and allow all the money to come in on Vince.
Sure, well said. Especially from that betting perspective, I think that's the best way to kind of describe why you wouldn't assume the line would be so big.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. And so, that takes us right into the next bout. I was shocked to see that this one is so low.
No, but here's the thing. This is what my boy Pies is chasing the passion is going to understand. Like, you go learn today. And I think this is one of those cards where, like, for all those fights that you love, you know what I mean? I think you're going to see that you're able to judge the quality of, let me rank these fights truly and see where I'm going to get the most action. And understand that, let's talk about it. What is, in the modern day, the worst possible fight? People used to think it was actually women's MMA. I think the more reason is to not watch women punch each other in the face at this point. But if you look at it, I actually believe...
Let me guess.
Sure.
Heavy boys that get tired.
Yeah, man. Who's watching that now? Back in the day, people were still drunk enough and being like, oh, come on, man, please. Even in the third round, you can do it. I got like a kid sleeping next door. Like I'm only screaming if I'm watching like 20 shot combos and like flying fists in the air, Frankie, a great example, but like it is what it is, right? Like unfortunately, athleticism is taking over the sport. Perfect timing because ESPN decided to take it over too. So I think it's a great time to kind of separate the athletes from the, hey man, don't fight me because I'll knock the shit out.
I got power. Yeah, exactly. And that's exemplified in these two dudes here. We got Alonzo Menafield and William Knight, two dudes who are straight finishers. So much power in this. Like you said, I'm curious to see if either of them can execute that power early or if this does become one of those ones that kind of drags on, and in the third round it's a lot of leaning on each other and that heavyweight, But
I'm actually going to challenge that point because William Knight, for me, man, it's comparable because I think people learn how to carry muscle in MMA. I think that is a very difficult thing to train for. I think that's a very difficult thing when psychologically, physically, all the things that come into play inside the octagon that, equal fatigue. I think that's something you just can't quantify, and it comes with experience. And I think Menafield, now that he's fought some of the top guys in the UFC, has experienced that a little bit. He's seen what it means to not just walk into a first round and kind of go crazy. Like when you talk about his experience, right? 2 times on Dana White's Contender Series, 2 first round finishes, right? One was via doctor stoppage at the end of the first, and the other one was inside I think it was 10 seconds. Yeah, 8 seconds was the finish. So, he's been in Bellator, he's been in RFA, he's been in LFA, face. So it's one of those guys where I think he just needed the time to really learn. Those losses don't mean that much. You know what I mean? They're more experienced L's than big L's. And I think those are the best kind of losses to take in a sport like this.
Yeah, and I think you touched on it perfectly with, the wanting to get that huge knockout out, throwing those huge punches that kind of open you up and make you a little susceptible. And that's what I kind of noticed in that OSP fight, right? He was landing a lot early and he was actually doing really well. But I think he got a little carried away, tried to land some huge overhand and just got caught, right?
Mm-hmm. Yo, you're getting me hyped with that kind of shit, bro. Don't be talking like that. Down, boy. Just kidding. So the main thing I wanted to actually touch on in this fight is, did you watch the camera fight by any chance with William Knight? Only reason I ask is because you kind of touched on it, right? When you look at William Knight size-wise, like even being the guy that he is, a little bit smaller probably than the guys he might have to take on based on height, but dude is just quick. He's powerful. Yeah. He's an NFL running back at the MMA level because he's able to get low. He's able to use power. He's able to use his legs. Like, the way he was able to control Kemmer against the fence, the way he was able to get some of these takedowns. And honestly, bro, he ended the second round in mount basically on the verge of breaking this kid's arm. And his cardio really looked good in the third round. So for me, it's like, this is the perfect test. So like, again, kudos to UFC matchmaking because I think these are two guys where you look at them and you expect one thing, but this is the perfect time for Menifield to prove, hey, do I have what it takes to go those 3 rounds? Because if I do, then I'm a pretty dangerous guy myself because William Knight is proving that, especially in those close quarters and clinches and stuff like that, dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one where it can go either way. No outcome here will surprise me. So, let's dive right into those lines. I'll go first on this one. I'm torn, man. I really have no idea. This is a barn burner, but I'm going to go with William Knight as the slight favorite at maybe -130, -140.
It's funny because I hate you because in my notes, I technically would have gone with Menifield, but I've convinced myself based on these previous lines, like, hey, maybe the Devils have woken up and realized like what's popping off, right? And they're not giving just like these big name favorites with first round knockouts all the buzz. So it's like I was going to switch, but you know what? Let's see if Vegas is that smart. I'm going to go Menifield -160. I cannot see him anything better, but I could definitely see him being an underdog.
Oh, right. And so in checking out the line, it is a straight pick 'em. -110.
Congratulations, Pies. So, I mean, like we said, we know exactly what this comes down to. If Menifield cannot end this fight early, he needs to prove that he can go 3 rounds with a guy like William Knight, who's proving to have power in like weird areas, bro. Like, I don't know how he's just pulling off some of these takedowns and just breathing pretty good for a guy that thick. It's really impressive. And I think that's what's going to make it a fun fight and not the fight that people might expect with that notion of, these could be 2 really muscular guys who, if they don't land in the first 2 rounds, it's going to be tiring. I really believe William Knight can go 3 rounds easy. And I think if that's something that Menifield has worked on, he's going to be back into that dangerous territory of where we kind of saw him over the last year or two, before he started fighting some real big guys in OSP,
Yeah, and this fight will be really telling for these guys' career because it's a big one, man, and any dominant performance, I think, can go a long way in this one.
Totally agree, bro.
Perfect, and then, that takes us into our next fight. I'm excited about
Canadian
this one.
girl,
we got a little Beaver bias on this one. Out of Colborne, Ontario, man. We got Alexis Davis.
I think I know someone from there.
Really? I've never even heard of this place.
Oh, yeah, no, it's probably a hockey player, and I just saw him on a fantasy site when I tried to look up how many points he had last year.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Alexis Davis taking on Sabina Mazo?
Yeah, sorry. Mazo. Yeah.
Yeah, so we got this women's flyweight bout. We got the vet in Alexis Davis. We got a nice young opponent in Sabina Mazo at 23 years old. Give us a little bit about these ladies, man.
Well, I think you kind of hyped it up already, right? You got a Canadian, let's call her a legend. I think at the end of the day, MMA is such a growing sport. And in terms of even females from the Canadian side, it's going to take some time for people to really kind of see what we've brought to the table. But, outside of that performance against Ronda Rousey, it was a rough one. But Ronda, did her thing for that little bit of time. She's got the good striking. She's pretty disciplined in there. I think that she loses fights against great fighters. But the big thing for me is when you look at Mazo, hype, flyweight champion in LFA, all these kind of things. She defended it once before making her way over to the UFC. And, it's funny, right? We don't rank these people on our prospect watch because once you get to that 3-fight arena now in the UFC, it's like I could find a whole bunch of people that are probably in that, 4-1 or 3-1 range that are between, 22 and 26. Like it's or even 30. Like I'll give a 30-year-old if he's just, coming to the UFC and starting to find his groove. But, these are the things I really like to look out for. I think when you really think about the Kish fight, did you watch any fights with Mazo? That was probably the one where her youth was tested, just completely bum rushed in terms of striking and trying to weather storms and all that. And you know what? She just did it with ease, with pride. She looked just really calculated in there. I don't see her being the type that can just string together a bunch of combos. That's the one thing. I feel like she uses her jab a lot. You know what I mean? Like just far too much, trying to gauge range. Sets it up nicely with a right low kick, but at the end of the day, it's one of those. Left low kick. Is she? Yeah, sorry, I'm left-handed. Yeah, sorry, it would be a right low kick. And then I think that she's pretty. I think she's pretty solid. I think if you're trying to get tested striking wise, this is a good one. But your Canadian girl could have that chance, right? Like striking is going to be the name of the game here. I think that Alexis Davis might want to take it to the ground. Experience over everything, right? Like that's where I just think you have to figure out where you can win the fight on the fly.
Yeah, and so, touching on Alexis, you just kind of scrolling through her history, she's lost 3 in a row against some tough competition, you know what I mean? So, how much of an impact does that have? Did you see anything in those fights that kind of, makes you believe, all right, she can give Sabina a good test here?
But here's the thing, right? That's the whole point why Marion Renault is going to fight Chasen. It's the whole point why, these fights are fundamentally, they're tester fights, and they're a good opportunity for a veteran to try to come in and beat a prospect. That is what it is, We haven't seen her fight for so long, and this losing streak is dating back to 2019, 2018. So for me, I'm just like, I'm appreciative of both girls trying to, get their dues. I just think it's one of those opportunities where you have to say, as a fighter, why wouldn't I take the chance to fight a prospect that I believe I can beat? You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
I think that's where, in her case, it's just like, if this is a striking battle, I do have a good chance. I think I have an all-around game that I've learned over time by losing some of the fights that I have. But then you got Mazo, hype everything. I think that's going to be on her side. LFA champion of flyweight. That's no joke. I think the one thing against her, bantamweight, right? This is going to be her debut moving up in weight. So, strawweight. And so I would say, what am I saying, bro? Bantamweight. So that's going to be, that's a terrible faux pas. I would say that's going to be the only thing that you're like, if she gets taken down a lot and it's real easy to kind of watch the dominance happen, that the weight jump might be an issue at this level.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dive right into the lines there. You want to go first? You want me to go first?
I mean, I'm just going to go right out there. I think Mazo's hype is going to be too real. The gap in fights always plays a role with the Demon Boys. So I'm going to go with minus 250 on Mazo's side.
Interesting. I was going to go minus 200, so that goes right in line. And
let's get it, baby.
Let's see what we are looking at here. Oh, where's my man? What's up, my man? Suki hit it right on the dot. Give me my showcase showdown.
You know what? Hey, guess what? Give my boy Pies a bell. Ding.
Yeah, exactly. It's minus 250. We both win. Oh, man. But you
That's
nailed
right.
this
What do we
right
say?
on the head.
Bye, Demon Boys. I curse you. I could. You know what? Let's just get right into the next fight, too, because that would just pump me up. Your boy. Thiago Moises, you. How do you feel? Because Alexander Hernandez is the real deal. I always have said that. But I mean, I'm curious to see what you think right now.
Yeah, so it's funny. I remember touching on Hernandez last time, and it was right after he had lost to Drew Dauber, and we had said, how many raw skills that this guy has. There's just certain aspects of his game that he just needs to shore up a little bit to become as dominant as he can be. And we saw that in his last fight, I believe against Kreutzmeyer, right? Like that was that was an impressive fight, man. And he really did seem to listen to you and shore up those few things.
Well, the thing about Grutzwetter fight is I feel for Hernandez as a prospect, right? Like, let's talk about the losses. Cerrone, rebirth of Drew Dauber, and Jamal Emmers when you're 20 years old. At the end of the day, the kid's the real deal. He's a great MMA fighter. I believe he's going to be in the UFC for the next 10 years. I think he's only going to lose to elite fighters. And Moises, it looks the part too, right? I don't see either of these guys being the type that goes on these 3 or 4 fight losing streaks to end up outside the UFC. I just don't see it, because even when you look at Moises' losses, you know, in the UFC, Beneil Dariush, who we now just call the Terminator, you and I, and it's Magulov, who is also, you know, I can't wait to see that man fight again. And you know, that's what I'm talking about the UFC, right? There's so many guys just hidden till you see them either come up in a fight, or you know, you get reminded of all these dudes who are just you know, are ready to just let's get it. So I really think this is going to be one of the most underrated fights, potential fight of the night. I really want to get your gauge on this one, because I know you know both guys. And like, technically speaking, we've already said Hernandez has definitely learned how to manage that weight. He likes to go in real heavy muscular wise. I think that he learned that in the other 2 fights where he just kind of adrenaline dump in a weird way. Like he looked great. And then, the experience of the other 2 managers take over and power shots start landing. Right. And
yeah, and I think this is going to be a great battle between, you know, striking and grappling, right? Like, you know, Moises is great in submissions and stuff, and he makes them sneaky, you know what I mean? He pulls them out when you least expect it. So, you know, I'm really looking forward to seeing the contrast in these. Obviously, the one thing that stood out to me I have to touch on is the fact that, you know, Hernandez, you mentioned, he's going to be in the league for a long time. And I think his personality is going to take him a long way, man. He's a really humble dude, man. He doesn't talk a lot of smack. He really respects his opponents.
Hey, man, you know what's funny is in this moment right now, you know what? I'm going to pull this video up. I'm sorry. We might have even had a time. You just said that? I'm going to have to pull this up.
Persona of anything. It's just another day. And to me, standing across from Cowboy, I'm looking through the fighter. I'm looking at the man. And I think the persona and everything's just a big distraction. I just see myself facing an insecure little lad swinging on a saddle with a pop gun and a feather in his hat.
A little insecure, popping cattle, fucking whatever. That's good. I can't wait for Saturday, man. I'm excited.
Static about Saturday.
Static, yeah. We just stood in the back. You didn't have much to say, so if you do,
you didn't have much to say either, partner. I'll tell you this, little friend. I'll be sending your geriatric ass fucking yeehawing back to the stables on Saturday. You're all buddy in the back. It's calling how healthy.
You were
nice.
saying,
I do look fucking healthy. I look great. You look like you served the last 2 terms in the fucking Oval Office. You look worn out. You look aged and withered.
All right.
You look aged and withered.
That means I beat everybody up there except for the champ.
Like, let's remember this fight.
Back to the geriatric.
He says I'm a stepping stone, bitch. I'm a motherfucking
bro. This boy just got humbled.
You are a jester in the way. You're an active participant.
Donald Cerrone.
You're concerned with entertaining people. I'm on the road to the throne. I'm concerned with kingship.
And Saturday,
You're a jester.
when I finish you, I will.
You don't
It just
belong
goes
across
on
from me
and
as much as
on
you
and
thought
on.
belong across from you. You're a stepping stone. Your 40th fight, if it took you that long to figure out what your goals are and that you're meant to be a champion, you're about 39 too fucking late. For me, I've known why I'm in this. I know why. I know my purpose. I know my mission. And I'm 100% committed to one thing. Unlike old day drinking Don over there who's got mixed mistresses and a number of extracurricular activities to hide from the greatest fear in his life, which is in front of him, I focus on one thing and one thing only. I know I'm going to be a champion. He's number 2. He's always been number 2. I'm going to be number 1.
156.
Let's just whoop and party done, boy. And so that's where, like, yes, I believe that all the right things happened to this kid at the right time. He fought the right guys. He learned the right lessons. This kid is already coaching guys at his gym. He's a phenomenal kid. I love the guy. And I'm so looking forward to his success at this level, because I don't think he's going anywhere. In fact, he's already breeding fighters himself as he gets better. So that's how good we're talking he is right now. You know?
Absolutely. And this is going to be a great test for him as well. Thiago Moises is no joke here. So let's dive right into the line here. I'm going to give a little guess here. I do believe Hernandez should be the favorite, not by much though. So I'm going to give it maybe a -130.
Okay. So the thing for me, it's so funny that you said that because I actually agree with you on who the favorite is, but I actually gave him a higher line for even more reasons why I think Thiago Moises can still do some damage because, like you said, sneaky ankle lock against Michael Johnson was a great example. But I actually like his scrambling. I like his ability to strike and scramble. Your boy Bobby Green, what's his best feat? It is actually scramble and strike. Yeah. He can do it for all. He can do it for 3 rounds. And Moises really played his game, and questionable win for a lot of people. I mean, I'm indifferent. I thought the fight was great.
How we felt about that one.
I'm gonna say you. I really thought it's like I really felt like you could give it both ends, but I remember I told you there's so many people who agree with you. Like there is so many because like I don't even think that I had such a lean when I came out of it. Like that's the true fact. And because when we don't watch fights together, it's really easy to have that separated opinion. So because of those factors, I actually gave him a less of a line of what I think the boys in red, aka the Devils, think. And so I was actually gonna go with -170, thinking that they won't put him actually a lot higher. So what do we got here, my man?
All right, you win this one again. It's -188 actually.
Wow.
So -188.
Exact reason, Pies. I think his scrambling ability is probably underrated by the public. I think that the striking is where people see Brazilian names, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, all that kind of stuff, and they think, oh, he's not gonna be able to strike. Oh, Anthony Hernandez is a beast. But I think against Bobby Green, he proved that at this level he can definitely scramble real well and show all that stuff. So get Hernandez against the fence, make him real tired. You've seen what happens. Try to get him into that 3rd round and really see where his skills have gotten as the experienced fighter who's taken a guy like Bobby Green 3 rounds to a split decision kind of thing. That's the part that I'm really, really kind of excited to see. I think that either guy has so much opportunity, and it's really going to come down to how much they execute. But also, I think for a guy like Hernandez, if he lands big early, he might get that power shot off. But if he doesn't, control that energy, kid. Control that energy.
Yeah, and it's going to be a great one to headline the prelim card. So that wraps up the prelims for us, and we're going to dive right into the main event here. And the first one kicking off the main event is a featherweight bout. We got Alex Cachero on one end. And
just to quickly touch on is that we don't know why, but that Jason fight, as we suspect right now, we've already done coverage on it. It was supposed to happen. It is removed as we're recording. It might have happened within the last hour or two. We don't really know, but just to throw that out there, it's just disappeared off the cards. We don't know why, so we're not going to throw another blurb on it. But carry on, my boy.
Yeah, and in the case that it does pop back up, you can go check out that video. It's there. We've already done the preview for this one. So, this fight has me excited based on nicknames, man. These are some great nicknames, man. I was dying at Bruce Leroy, like dying. That is a great nickname. And Kevin Kroom, no joke either. The hard-hitting hillbilly, man.
So good. I love it. I love it.
These.
Bruce Leroy is one of my favorite ones of all time. And to be honest, he actually owns that yellow suit. The yellow suit that Bruce Lee wears with the black stripe on. He has the exact suit and he used to wear it out. It's funny because he's from that tough season with Michael Johnson. And that was one of my favorite ones of all time. And he's actually one of the greatest characters to come out of that. Remember there was documentaries on street fighters and street videos. Like Jorge Masvidal's in a documentary about Data 5000 and our boy Kimbo. And so is Caceres. So these guys are all from that same scene of Florida. Florida. That's what they should call street fighting in Florida. Florida. So Florida street fighting scene. And yeah, they both are kind of looking good.
Yeah, that's crazy. I had no idea, man. Just, looking into him, he's on a bit of a hot streak, won 3 in a row. And man, I'm not going to lie. Did cutting that fro give him that last submission, man? Allow him to get in there real quick? I hadn't seen no submission from him before.
I know, right? And that's the thing. He's so creative, man. I love his energy. He's always smiling. I think that he's hella underrated. Him and Michael Johnson have similar records in a weird way. I'm not going to give him the same credit of some of the guys that Michael Johnson has lost to, but when you look at Caceres' record, it's just it's a little misleading, I believe, for how good they are as actual fighters, right? And so if you think about just how he's able to kind of stay on his bicycle and constantly move and pick his shots and use the kicks and even strikes, and his scrambling ability is amazing. He could sit on your back for the entire round if you want him to.
Yeah, he definitely could. And like you said, that versatility, that ability in his game is crazy. It's going to be crazy for Kroom to deal with. I think this is another level of beast for him. His debut was insane. I mean, granted, it was finished as a no contest, you know, a little bit of that smoke, but what an impressive fucking standing guillotine choke, whatever that was, man. That was crazy.
Which was actually followed up originally by that big shot he landed. So he goes in, he's faking shots, and then boom, craps him once, and Roosevelt just falls. Like, he just drops, and he's trying to get in there with the ground and pound and just locks it up. Like, it looked great.
Yeah. He was shocked himself. So, you know, where do you kind of see this one going, man?
Well, that's the thing, right? I like Kroom. What we saw in that little bit, I mean, you know, that whole marijuana thing in MMA, it is what it is. Like, I think that's going to be an old story sooner or later. But for now, skill-wise, he's definitely going to be a test. I think that we didn't see enough of that bicycle because he has to definitely know that Caceres, unless he gets finished early, is going to, you know, constantly be able to move around like that. I think getting the fight to the ground and maybe even just tiring him out a little bit. I think Bruce Leroy likes to be constantly moving and likes to dictate that kind of pace. You know, if he can keep you in front of him and have you pushing forward and just pick shots, run around, kick. You know, I think he enjoys that and take it to the ground if he really cares to or wants to. That's what he's going to be looking for. And with Kroom, it's like, you know, just get it against the fence, calm this kid down. You know, he's just going to keep running and he's going to keep landing. So I think just, you know, calming him down, dictating that pace, you know, don't play to his pace if it's just not the way you want to see the fight going, because I think in that Roosevelt fight, he showed that prowess, right? And then I think that it's a different fight now. I really believe that these are going to be styles that match up a lot better. I think Roosevelt Roberts might be that guy that has that feeling out process and really gets into his motions and really picks it up as the fight rolls on. Not really what you want to see from these kind of guys, because like the moment they feel what they're feeling, they seem to do very well. And the Chase Hooper upset is massive, right? Like that's where Bruce Leroy almost came out of his shell. I think that was massive.
Yeah, and that's one that kind of stood out to me as well. And so, you know, let's dive into the lines here. Who do you see being the favorite here, and kind of by how much?
Kind of what I saw there. It's just like the win streak is going to finally give this kid a bit of dues that he requires, and I think it's going to speak from the Devils in Red as well. And so we're going to go with that minus 200. I just don't see that it can be much more than that. But also, I'm going to give him that respect of that 3-fight win streak and the experience that he has, because I know what Kroom can do, but I just think that it's going to speak volumes to the public.
Man, I wanted to, you know, play some sort of devil's advocate here or something, but minus 200 was my lean as well. So, you know, maybe I'll boost that up. I'll boost that up a little bit. Maybe I'll go minus 250.
The power of pies compels you. The power of pies compels you.
This man straight throwing exorcism at me.
No, I'm talking to Vegas.
Oh, wow, dude. It actually is in between what our two guesses was, man. Minus 225 for Caceres here.
Wow, that's beautiful. So again, it goes to show in terms of analysis there, it really lines up with experience, with win record and recency bias and all that kind of stuff, right? It's I guess one of those ones you can say that we've learned to pick fairly well.
Absolutely. And so that takes us into our next bout. It is another rescheduled bout that we've touched on before. Pedro Munhoz takes on Jimmie Rivera in this bantamweight bout. What do you want to touch on here apart from what we've already touched on?
Yeah, like let's have a quick little pal of just how beautiful and wonderful these guys are, right? Like I'm just happy that we get to watch the fight again. Jimmie Rivera, as a personal note, I love the guy. I think that he had a nice little tune-up fight at featherweight. He's coming back down to bantamweight. Man, he looked good against Peter Yan. Peter Yan's the champion. So yeah, I think Jimmie Rivera has all the tools to be a champion. It's always about who's in your way, right? And the skills that you have to face. Pedro Munhoz was rising. These are volume strikers. These are guys that have beautiful takedown defense. They are not taking this fight to the ground. You know what I mean? So we're going to watch two guys very much trade. I think volume and hands. Yeah, and I think volume and hands and things like that, you're going to see Jimmie do a lot more of the work. But Pedro Munhoz is going to be creative. He's going to use those strikes. He's like kicks, like he's going to, I think leg kicks, things like that, slow Jimmie down because he's going to be that bulldog, bro. My man is a bulldog, and he will strike the entire fight. He can go 10 rounds, I'm sure of it, but it's just like, that's what you're up against.
Yeah, it's funny that, you know, that kind of stood out to me. I rewatched that Frankie Edgar fight, and yeah, man, like he's willing to just dish him out even if he's taking him, and that was a close one, man. That one really could have gone either way.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Split decision right there against Frankie. We saw where Frankie's at right now, and it's like, you fought a very good version of Frankie, and you know what, man, you look great, but this is also now like the new breed kind of thing. Like it's just like these guys are all going to have to face Corey at some point in their lives. Like Aljamain, like these are all the guys that are in this division that are, I guess the cream of the crop of the next 5 to 10 years, and you have to dictate. It's just like the heavyweight division. We talk about it, right? There's so much like sustenance when it comes to these older guys being able to at least get that 1 win or 2 wins to keep themselves relevant because they all have this name to stay attached, right? And you have a few of those guys now that are lingering in the UFC, and I don't even want to use that word. That's a terrible word to use because they're so elite, right? Like that's a terrible word to use. They belong, and it's just now it's starting to kind of dwindle down because now the young boys are just becoming they're blossoming, and now you kind of have to give those edges there. And Jimmie Rivera is one of those guys. So if Pedro Munhoz can prove that those that the loss to Frankie was definitely a fluke and that should have been his. I think the kicks, even switching it up a little bit. I think Rivera's always ready for that wrestling. The takedown defense, like we said, is perfect on both sides at this level. So it's going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we can move on from the lines here. There's no actual official line out for this. And, this fight was supposed to take place last weekend at Usman Burns. And
Usman Burns!
I believe that line was Jimmie Rivera at a -150. I don't see a reason why this would change.
And I think it only increased to a -163, which is not by much as we've seen these live lines go.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if you are looking for a little bit more technical aspect on this one, go check out last week's card. We have the full preview there. All right. And so that takes us into our next fight. We got Randy Brown versus Alex Oliveira. Should be a great one. Randy, he was looking good in that last fight, but he caught a knee to the face up against the fence, man. And, he was really looking dominant in that one. But lo and behold, he wasn't protecting himself and caught that. His head was down, caught that low knee to the face. So looking forward to seeing him adjust there. Alex Oliveira, same thing, that guillotine choke, man, by Shavkat. I rewatched that one. And man, the way he executed that sweep while he had it to get him down, oh man, that was disgusting. That was sick.
So good, so good.
Yeah, so that lines up beautifully for this welterweight bout. Give us a little bit more on this one. The one thing that kind of first of all stood out to me is this size difference. Man.
Yeah.
3 versus 5'11". That's a big boy.
And it's interesting, right? Because Oliveira likes to use his kicks as well, right? We call him Brazilian Cowboy. Funny enough, the closest thing to a WWE match in the UFC ever was, American Cowboy versus, Brazilian Cowboy. And it was like the loser has to lose the hat kind of thing. So it was like the Cowboy match. It's funny enough. I think that the length, it's like the legs. I think you're going to see Randy Brown wear that frame. Like he keeps like a very wide stance. Like I think he likes to have that power and use those kicks kind of thing. The cardio and things like that are going to be tough, right? I think Charles Oliveira is an elite striker. I think, he's a fan favorite, all those kinds of things, but he's a survivor too, right? He knows how to win fights. I think he's been able to show perseverance and resilience in many fights. The thing about Randy Brown you touched on, the Vincent Luque fight. I personally think Vincent Luque is like elite. I love the striking. He's out of a really good camp now too, right? So at the end of the day, Randy Brown fought a very, very good fighter and came up short. It is who it is, if you will. So I think the length is going to be a little bit more canceled up from a striking perspective. I think you're going to see him weird in the legs. I think he's going to be able to kind of reach a little bit, but you don't want to reach too much against a guy like Charles. You know what I mean? Like the leg kicks should work really well for him. But I think if you allow Randy Brown to kind of, understand like the opponent and time his shots and be able to kind of break things down, get him up against the fence. It's the part that kind of nullifies any offense that Charles Rivera can really do, because I think the moment he either senses. Sorry, what did I say, Charles?
You love your boy.
Ooh, I'm so sorry. That's so good. I'm just my little bleach blonde hair, little beautiful boy. I just love the early signs of what he showed us in the UFC, right? You saw a guy who picked the shots, who really attacked the body with his kicks. Those were the things that really made him a damaging fighter. So again, a guy like Randy Brown, maybe test that body with those powerful kicks. I think that's going to be a little bit of a ticket to success for him. We love the takedown defense. That's how we know. 60% Oliveira, 71% Randy Brown. Guess what we're going to see, ladies and gentlemen? Most likely a little bit of a bang. I think that both guys have the skill to at least switch it up if they need to, which is going to be important. But yeah, I mean, any one of these guys can maybe even pull off a finish, but at the same time, it's going to come down to athleticism, cardio, and just who makes the real mistakes first.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, diving into the line, I'm going to take a stab at it. Might be completely off, but I'm going to say Randy Brown at a -150.
I'm going to have to go with Randy Brown at a little higher rate. I'm going to just say because of age, because of, what people expect to see from Randy Brown has to always play a part. And so I'm going to actually go with just maybe a -175 because the Devils like to cheat.
Oh, like to cheat, eh? Well, you cheating on this one or what, man?
What?
Let's give you another showcase showdown. Where's my man?
Wow.
Show me him. Let me see him.
That means you hit a little close too, though, right? Like that's in the range of bing, bing, bing,
-1
bing, bing, bing.
-175 is the exact line for this one.
Wow, dude. Wow.
Nailed it.
That's so funny. So, let's be real. It comes down to fundamentally the look, right? I think he gives the perception that he's going to be a very powerful fighter. I think that, like I said, I like the way he wears that length, but at the same time, you got to use it better. You got to be able to dictate that part of the game, like use your jab, use your length kicks. Because at the end of the day, if Oliveira is able to land like good body kicks or even take this fight to the ground and maybe muster up some offense, and maybe keep you tired down there, that's going to be a problem for you. So it's going to be interesting to see because I think there are multiple ways for this fight to go, but Randy Brown,
and I think it's a fair line.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think so as well. And so that takes us to our co-main event. I'm gonna let Siraj introduce this one because this is the fight. Even with the heavyweights headlining, this is the one I'm most excited about. So I'm gonna let you introduce this one.
So I mean, right now we've got the Ankalev and Krylov fight. So I do want to actually touch on a fight before that because I don't want to get too excited for these main and co-main events. So we got Montana De La Rosa and Mayra Buena Silva.
Oh, my bad. I missed this one. My bad.
It's okay, buddy. It's okay, buddy. He's excited. I've been down this path. I've been down this path. I can get tunnel vision sometimes too. Charles Oliveira hashtag. Let's give a little chat to I think the ground game of both these girls look pretty sweet, right? I think that when you consider what De La Rosa brought to the table, I think that you thought she might actually be able to keep more of the stand-up fight going, but she was looking for those submissions pretty quickly. I was a little bit surprised because I would have loved to see that Taylor Santos fight. When you think about the Mayra Moraz, all these fights would have been really good for her. In terms of development, all those kinds of things, because I think that Silva looks like a killer, right? They both have wins over Mara Borella. We've talked about Mara Borella a couple times on the show. She looks like a killer when she gets the fight to the ground in a dominant position, right? Like she got that armbar pretty clean. I think that was just so easy for her to do. She's got first round wins over Borella and Jillian Robertson via submission. It's kind of interesting to see what she's going to be able to bring to a table. With that's where I feel like this matchmaking is really great, right? Even the way we broke down the last fight, you have to kind of see that all these fighters seem very similar. That's the thing that I really love, and I think that's what I enjoy about fighting, right? Because I'm going to see a competitive match, and it's like almost watching a similar sport. It's like watching a kickboxing match. It's like watching a boxing match, because you have the edge of someone being able to switch up if they need to, but there's a fair chance that one of these girls are going to try to use some strikes to outpoint or out edge the other one if they can't seem to get any offense on the ground. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And kind of looking back at that Arugio fight with Montana, Arugio really dictated the pace there, and it really seemed like Montana really wanted to slow it down, but just wasn't able to. Do you kind of see a similar thing, happening here in terms of approach for Silva?
Well, that's the thing, right? For me, it's all about top position here because both girls probably have some ability to attack from the bottom. But at the end of the day, if you're that confident in your striking, ground and pound, and jiu-jitsu, it's like top position is top position, right? Even for the fight to from a points perspective, like that's where you want to be. Unless you're really landing some serious bows or constantly going for arm bars or triangles from the bottom, it's really hard to get the fight in your favor from a judging perspective. So I think that's where, whichever girl is able to really kind of push this up against the fence and fight for that, because, chances are this spends a lot of time in the clinch, right? Girls are trying to kickbox, girls are trying to land some strikes to maybe get a leg up and sweep a girl down, those kinds of things. But it's actually where I do give Silva a bit of an edge, right? I do think she has what looks to be that Brazilian jiu-jitsu style of power. And, you can be a good grappler, but then you can also be like a powerful grappler. And, talking about William Knight, he showed that against Camera. And, it's a similar thing that Varela kind of saw, right? Like she thought she was winning that fight. And then out of nowhere, boom, taps. So...
Yeah, absolutely. And so let's dive right into the line there. My guess has Silva as the favorite. Probably not by much. I'm going to guess a -150. What are you going to guess here?
I actually, funny enough, similar lines, right? I think you went the same line with Randy Brown. I'm going to give a Silva a -170, -175 line again. I think it's pretty fair.
All right, let's check it out. Wow, it is a straight pick'em. No favorite. -110.
I mean, Pies, we broke it down, right? Like, we literally said that these girls are going to do the exact same thing. It's going to come down to who is the better striker. It's going to come down to who's the better wrestler. Like, who can actually get this up against the fence and gain position? Maybe have to operate from, top clinch, getting down to changing levels. It's going to be a fun fight to watch if you enjoy the grappling side of things, because I think that regardless of how much they try to sell their striking, they know what they're good at.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be a great one. Now let's move on to the co-main event. Give me a little intro here.
We got Nikita Krylov versus, our boy, Magomed Ankaelev. I think that, don't you feel like Ankaelev would have had way more fights? Not way more fights, but that Ion Cutelaba situation really just staggered his career. That ridiculous...
But it made me love this man. It made me love this man, He's just that, quiet dude who just or maybe he's not, as you proved to be wrong with Hernandez, but from what I see out there in the octagon, he's just a dude who goes to work, man. Cutelaba was talking smack throughout, did his whole little fake knockout thing, and Ankalev came back and really gave it to him this time. No questions on who the better fighter is here. Even looking at that KO of Dalcha, man, that was insane,
right? Like
dude.
The guy's the real deal.
How is that not something I've seen 100 times before? I've seen Impa, his knockout. This was almost on level.
Don't you think it comes down to the selling of the fighter themselves? I think Ankalev is already a very billable fighter in terms of just one of these Russian beasts that are, coming in with one loss and just running through folks, right? I think from a prospect perspective, I think Joaquin Buckley just came on the scene out of nowhere. He was the guy that lost to Kevin Holland via knockout. He damaged Jordan Wright. I thought that was, a difference of classing, in my opinion. I think that was just a beastly because, Joaquin Buckley then all of a sudden met a true UFC veteran in Alessio Di Chirico and paid that price. So I think that's where, you touched on it, right? Like Ankalev is an absolute beast of a prospect in some ways when you're talking about a guy like Nikita Krylov, right? Because tell me you watched the Glover fight.
I did not, but I did watch the Blackwoods one.
That a boy. Yeah, right? Yeah, so the guy's a monster. And then I think the scary part is Ankalev, I don't know if he's seen this level of mixed martial artists at this level, because I think if it goes to the ground, Krylov has if he's able to kind of dictate a lot of the fight against Glover, I mean, you have to tell yourself that Ankalev is in a bit of trouble as well.
Yes, absolutely. And, this is definitely going to be his toughest test yet. Really looking forward to it. It's going to be a great one for the co-main event.
When you look at Krylov, right, he actually... Think about that loss, how good he looked. He looked in great shape. He actually took some rounds. That was a very close fight. And he looked so good that coming out of the fight against Glover, we talk about these losses that are not real losses. They're experience fights, right? He goes on and absolutely, destroys Johnny Walker in a unanimous decision because, frankly,
Fucking great name too, but
yeah. But it goes to show that the experience pays off, right? Like that was a big name prospect who could have just used you as a stepping stone, and you prove that that's not the case. And Ankalev is about to have a similar position, and I think there's a lot to say about the striking and stuff like that. But man, you cannot write off Krylov in this fight, in my opinion.
Do you foresee the winner of this fight, maybe getting a title shot soon, or
I think that's a little tough to say. I think for me, the thing about these fighters is like there's billable fighters, then there's like fighters who earn the shot, right? And unfortunately, we live in a time where billable fighters get more opportunity than the fighters that might deserve it. Sometimes, it's not. I don't think it's a matter of not deserving it or things like that. I just think that at the end of the day, certain people have been around in terms of, last opportunity or just bigger names, things like that. Things like Beneil Dariush, think about where he should be right now when you really think about it, right? So I think in that sense, you have the people to throw into that realm if you need to, kind of thing. Jan is a great example, right? Jan is going to have to take on the middleweight champion with his belt to get a really big fight out of it. And good for him, he gets the Adesanya fight, right? That's how you have to look at it, because he's not going down and fight at middleweight, because at middleweight, there's a bunch of guys waiting for Adesanya. And there's probably billable guys that can use at middleweight. So it's a really interesting process where if you're the Jan in that situation, it's like, oh, good, D, bring it on, baby, right? Like that's kind of how you take it. So I think that's where they will definitely be in line. I think Ankalev might be able to make that chance happen. I think the loss to Glover is an issue. Glover's my guy, right? Glover. I think if you going back to what I was just saying, right? Like if there's a guy you want to just kind of, if I had to give a shot to a guy in terms of, earning it over time and finally being in a position where he's kind of seen it, I mean, why not give it a Glover, right? Let's talk about it. Corey Anderson, last loss, 2018. Since then, Carl Robertson, finish. Arm triangle, round 1. Ion Cutelaba, round 2, rear naked. Krylov, split decision. He goes into a grappling bout against Jake Shields and gets a draw. Are you kidding me? Goes into a 5-round fight against Anthony Smith and finishes him with ground and pound in the 5th round. Goes in against Thiago Santos and beats him in a round 3 rear naked. Guys, the guy is the most deserving. But, let this happen. I believe that Glover deserves the next shot at light heavyweight, but we'll see how that goes. Because if I had backing for my little rant there earlier, wouldn't you say Glover's the guy?
Yeah, absolutely. And let's dive right into the lines here. What's your guess here, my man?
Let's go with. I'm going to go with Ankalev minus 275. I think that's a little high, but I think Vegas will play that.
Damn, I might be just way off on this one.
No, maybe you aren't.
I mean, I saw it being pretty close. I was going to give Ankalev maybe a minus 140, but I honestly didn't think it was much. And let's see how wrong I really am.
Well, I think these are Vegas lines, so I'm hoping that they just think he's a massive favorite.
Woo! We were both off, man. Ankalev is a minus 335.
Yeah, but see, that's what I'm trying to say.
You're in the realm. You're in the realm.
But I'm not, like, again, I know Vegas. I know the devil's work. That's all I'm saying. It's just, that's not something I care to make, a skill of any kind that's billable in the grand scheme of things. But I do think that has, like, in terms of, Ankalev is pretty hype. There's a lot of hype behind this man. And I think Krylov has some dog value in there, because I can't believe after putting on a split decision against the hottest fighter at light heavyweight, he is being considered that big of a dog.
Or plus 275.
If you are in the business of that world, I would be looking at a
Salt Bay that shit, man. All right, and so that takes us into the main event. I feel about these heavyweights, so I'm pumped about this one. Massive. We got Ciryl Gane on one side, and I'm going to try this guy's name, but it's Jairzinho. Is that how you say it?
Jairzinho Rozenstruik.
Rozenstruik I can do. It's that first name that got me. How do you say it? Jairzinho. All right. I know the J was silent, but
Jairzinho.
Yeah. So couple of really powerful dudes, man. I'm really excited about this one. Ciryl Gane, I mean, you talk about a dude making his way up the ranks. That's the definition of it, man. This guy's willing to take on whoever. And, man, just seeing the versatility in his game, man. I rewatched that JDS fight, and, geez, man, that was something else. JDS was doing everything he could to try and dictate that fight and that pace. And Gane just kept him at a distance with those leg kicks. And then picked his spot, picked his moment to just go in there and get it, man.
He's a great example of that perfect French kickboxer, right? He's got such a billable look, like he's just a beast waiting to get unleashed. But in this fight, right? Like I think that's what Rozenstruik brings to the table. I mean, the guy's an absolute beast. He just happened to lose to another beast via knockout, and I think that just goes to show how good Francis Ngannou's power is.
Ngannou really is. Yeah.
It's just it's the power is just too consistent. That's the thing I have to say about it, because like the only way to beat it is to completely avoid it. You know what I'm saying? You gotta be an incredibly good boxer, roll with the punches that do land, use head movement and footwork to avoid, any big shots to the head, power punch. Like it's elite level shit. And the only person to really do it was Stipe Miocic. And my boy Derek Lewis in his own way, whether it was mental game, voodoo shit, nobody cares, a win's a win. So the way I see this is you got technical striker in Ciryl Gane, but then also, Rozenstruik proved in the last few fights that not only is cardio there, like the way that Overeem fight went, I think that his ability to not give up, his ability to not rush in, his ability to literally take on who was considered the most technical heavyweight striker on the planet with relative ease. I think he dictated pace the whole time and almost chose to just go for it in that fifth round and landed absolute clean, dropped him clean. Referee was like, sorry, Overeem, I can't let this go on. And the fight was over. So that's where I think that Rozenstruik proved the most to me. I love watching him go for that long and prove that he can keep that power for that long. That's what you want to kind of see from heavyweights. That's going to be the next generation.
Yeah, and like you said, man, he's touched on all the top competition, right? He's kind of seen it all. So, that versatility and experience is going to be relatively new for Ciryl in a main event. And
I'm loving the fact that we're going to get to see him fight in a 5-round fight too. We got to see, Rozenstruik take apart Overeem in those 5 rounds. But I think this is going to be a great, opportunity for Gane to prove that, he's ready for 5 rounds in general, but then also go with the guy that we've already seen prove that he can go 5 rounds at a very, very good heavyweight pace and, volume, if you will.
His nickname, man, it makes me laugh. It reminds me of that Maniscalco skit where his dad's like, "Oh, Biggie shot. We got Biggie shot."
Yeah,
He's like, "Oh, we got Biggie boy. We got Biggie boy." Cracks me up every time I see it. So, let's do a little bit of guessing the lines here. Who do you see as the favorite and by how much?
Yo, this one's the hardest one. I honestly, it's very, very tough for me because I put it as, technical kickboxer versus like very good MMA striker. Like he's just proven to be a great boxer. I just love the strikes. I'm going to just go with Rozenstruik at a -120. Let's just throw that out there. We've done well.
All right. My initial lean was Gane at about a -150. But again, complete shot in the dark. Nothing here would surprise me.
Let's see.
Let's check out.
You nailed it best. It was the experience for me that kind of led that line. So let's see what it says.
Holy shit! Not what I was expecting. Ciryl Gane is a -275 favorite. Yo.
Yeah, I think he's the real deal. I think people see what he brings to the table. And again, man, we just talked about it. The look. I think that the look plays a part in what the Devils decide to do in their business. And I think that in this case, Rozenstruik doesn't look the part, but like I said, he went 5 rounds with Overeem and then he knocked him out in the 5th round.
This guy's name could be Ciryl Bane. I would not be surprised, he's such a beast.
How he didn't keep that nickname and come out with the mask for his fights, I don't understand, but
my God.
Ciryl Bane Gane.
What fear that would instill.
It's funny because you went Bane Gane and it's actually Ciryl Gane, but it's okay. We'll call it Ban Gun. French, it's French Bane.
The French version, man. French
Bane. Right here, French Bane. We'll get a meme made of that.
So that wraps up UFC Vegas 20. If you haven't already done so, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell button. All our Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff is there. Give us a follow, give us a tweet, shoot us a message, whatever floats your boat.
Peace.